Hey everyone, back with another recap video. For this one, I'm going to talk about my experience in Brussels. So my last video, I talked about my experience in London and how I changed my plan up and ended up in Brussels next. So I arrived in Brussels, I got up early and arrived in Brussels um, in the morning around 10, I believe. And the funny thing, going to Brussels, I got on the Eurostar, I believe, the fast train that goes under the tunnel, because you have to take a one of those out. It's like the only trains out of there, of the UK, because it's the island, so you have to go under. And interesting, I sat next to this woman who the train was going from London all the way to Amsterdam, and stopping at Brussels and Rotterdam and then Amsterdam. And the first thing she was like, "What are you doing in Brussels?" She was from Amsterdam. She was from the Netherlands. She was going to Amsterdam, but she worked in London. She was like, "I've never been to Brussels, and no one goes to Brussels." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But from that, I was like, there's got to be something. Like, it's the capital of Belgium, it's the capital of the UN. There's got to be stuff to do there, right? From that, I was like a little skeptical of, ooh, Brussels. Got to find something to do. But, anyways, I got dropped off on the train around 10 ish. And then one good thing is about Brussels is it's a smaller town, or at least like the kind of historic part where you would want to go as a tourist. It's on the smaller end, so and less people go there. So I got a hostel that was right down in the thick of it. Things. It wasn't on the square, which is like the big thing. I learned. You googled it. Learn like there's plaza that is gilded medieval Gothic structures, and I actually could have gone a hostel right next to it, but I went with one that was still walking distance, a little cheaper, and um, it was a good experience. Glad I did. And anyways, so I got the hostel there, and the good thing is it is walking distance of everything. So that first time I just walked from the train station to the hostel, and which was good because I honestly walked through the main square and I was like, oh wow, it was like it just happened upon this. Um, I got checked in, all easy. They actually let me check in early. It's one of the few places so far that's let me check in early. Because again, at 11, probably by the time I walked over there, that's pretty early. Got a kebab, very good. Um, and then I just went and tried to explore the city a little bit, and going in different things, seeing there. Sorry if there's I think there's a duck. I'm on a farm right now, so if you hear some screeching, that's that duck. Anyways, um, anyways, I saw him walking through, and yeah, just getting lost in the city, as they say to do, which is kind of what I found is the best thing to do at least one of the days, if not multiple days. Just walk through. So I didn't really have any. I just go on like Apple Maps and try to find buildings, or if I'm like, oh, that looks cool, go there. So I did that. I went back to the plaza, and there I found that there was a festival going on now. Like, I went through it earlier, and then now there's a festival. So the Mayboom Festival, I believe is how it's pronounced, and I'll put a little snip of what it is. It's some festival revolving around, like, they believe the city of Brussels believes they have this proper tree compared to this other town that believes they have the proper tree. There's a lot of like Belgium folklore revolved around that. I don't know, and I don't know the language, so I have no clue what they were talking about. But it was still very interesting because they had like this parade blocked out, and I think I have a clip of it, so I'll play it. But they were just chanting, and there was people in like groups that had like different like costumes, I guess. Like some of them were like knights, some of them just had like their thing was mustaches, and then things like that. It was intriguing. I don't know. That's all I know about Mayboom, but it was an interesting thing just to walk into. And so I stayed there at the square for a while, and then walked around more, just seeing the sights, going in churches, and getting the lay of the land. One thing I did find that night for dinner, I went to Lidl, and they had microwavable dinners, so I don't have to cook. Anyway, so I didn't have to cook, but it was like traditional Belgian food, heated up. The sides were good, but the meat was iffy. But that's how you get on microwave, learn how to cook, I guess. But so I did that, and then I tried to get a bearing of what was going on, and then that night I actually finally met people. So that's kind of the first time in the journey that I had met people, gone out with people, which is good. I literally just I heard them speaking English and like asking someone else, and I was like, well, can I join? And they're like, yeah, sure, which is good because it was good to just go get drinks with. That's all we did, but it was good to hear people from different countries, and first experience really out because I didn't go in London. And then the next day I kind of went and got lost in part of the city that I hadn't seen. So really I just went out I knew there's stuff kind of on certain side of the city, and so I was walk over there and just kind of get lost. So I went to a bunch of different buildings. At one point I was like, that looks cool. I walked all the way down like a mile for this church that was closed. I was like, oh man. So then I had to walk all the way back. But yeah, just doing sightseeing. I saw the palace, or the I think it's a government building, so I think it's where like their prime minister or whoever they have is, and then a nice park, and then their palace. And I went in this museum that was like kind of like a history slash social study is what I would describe it as, like a social study museum of Belgium. So it was very interesting seeing their perspective on certain things. Like certain things they did, they really, it was biased because it was their stuff. Like the one I thought was really interesting was like the one they talked about immigration, like throughout the years. And at one point, a bunch of people immigrated to America, and then it was like, yeah, they left, and they had a hard life. It was tough, and it just like left it at that. I was like, interesting. It did go into why. I don't know why. I don't know their history, but I assume there is a reason. They're just like, they left. It was probably worse, was their perspective at the museum, which I thought was interesting. And then, just other facts. A lot of that stuff, I could have Googled probably, but I wouldn't have that interacting or like some of the, antiques and stuff that was in it. And I wouldn't have Googled if I didn't go in it. So, and then, but also so that was like the upstairs, and the downstairs was like this, there used to be a palace on the premise, and they've like dug it up. It was underground. it got burnt down, and only like the stuff that was underground is left. So you could go through, and it was interesting. There wasn't that much preserved. It was like, oh, look at this room. This used to be something, 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 but it was old architecture underground, an old street, which was cool. And evidently, at one point, it was not underground. It was the street, and then they enclosed it, and then all this stuff happened. So that was interesting. And then I just explored more that day, which is what I thought about was interesting. I felt like it was very planned out. Like you go to these bigger, you could tell from like the design, like someone designed the city properly or with a intent. Like there would be a park, and in that park you could see over to a big church, or over to the government building, or over to to the forward with another church. Or then if you went to that place, you would see again, like at one point you were standing at a church, and then to your left was the Justice Building, which is the biggest one in the world, and then to your right was the government building, and then you're at the church. So, and then forward is like the main square or a church, or it was like each one of those, if you went to that big building, you could see it would look at something else. So definitely some intent there of, I don't know. I only took intro to architecture, so I don't know all the design, but I think I would have gotten at least a C for noticing that. So that's all I can say about that. And then I actually got in the Justice Building. I walked over there. It's a massive structure, and it was under construction, and a bunch of people were like, is this open, or is this a construction site? Because it had the like plaster, the plaster that comes down that you have to kind of move out of the way, peek in. And I just watched these other people, and they went in, and then I watched them some more, and they went through some metal detectors, and I was like, I think anyone can do this. So I just put my stuff through, and because they didn't know English, I don't think, and I didn't know. I think they actually spoke French there, even though it's in the Dutch region. Could totally be wrong about that, but I believe that is what they spoke there in Brussels. Anyways, but that place was massive. Largest, I believe, the largest justice like courtroom in the world, or something like that. This place is humongous. I think it's just an atrium. I mean, this is huge. Turns out you just go in every building you want. Eventually they'll let you in. That's crazy. Massive. I mean, you could just... massive. Anyway, so, and you could see out, you could see the city because it was at one of the high points. So you could see out the landscape, which was interesting. Yep. And then got another microwave dinner. You know how it is. Got to eat one of those. And then that night I just went on a night walk and got ready. Night walk, planned out my next move, which was going to Paris. But on my night walk, I didn't realize one of the things Brussels is also known is like there's peeing statues. So, because I think there at one point there was there's like this peeing boy, which is like the tourist thing that like they have in like tour shops. You can buy the peeing boy, but then someone has gone and made other art. So he's like a peeing dog. I got a picture of, and then there's another one. I might have seen it. Don't know. Didn't get a picture, so doesn't count. Doesn't exist probably. That's my thought. I've never been wrong, so that would make sense. Yeah, and then went to bed, got up, Paris, went to Paris next, so maybe I'll describe that, or maybe not. Who knows? But if not, or if I do, see ya.